Hi, my name's Chris and I'm picking hops. Again. First off, you'll have to excuse me if my voice sounds a little bit off. I've definitely been under the weather for the last week or two, but the hops aren't waiting. In fact, they're more than ready to be picked. What we've got here behind me is the Zeus hop. This is the one that I took off of the trellis and I put aside and into the pot that I had the extra cascade in, and I trained him to grow up the trellis, and really for something on the side of our deck, very attractive, but as you can see, also still quite productive. There's going to be a decent amount of cones on here. I'll harvest them, but these guys are less urgent. If you look really closely at some of these down at the bottom here, they're not even quite as ready to pick as other ones. That's, you know, it's still closed up. It's still very green. As we go to the top here, these guys probably are ready. They open up a bit. They feel a little bit more papery, a little bit lighter, and that's a good cue that they're ready to come down. So, over at the trellis though is a different story. What we have over there is lots of hops ready to pick, and we'll go over there in a sec. But first, what I thought I'd do is I'd show you what I do to prepare myself for actually picking hops. What you're going to need is you're going to need some gloves. These are very cheap cotton gloves, and you can see they're still stained yellow from the last hop picking from last year. You're going to need, both hands have to be pretty much free, really, to pick effectively. So if you look down my chest, I've got a belt, and very high-tech here, a couple baggies, and they're basically taped around the belt, and that just keeps my hands free so that I can pick. So, very complicated. Also, as you can see, even though it's a very warm evening, I've got long sleeves on here because with the gloves and the sleeves, you know, the hop vines are pretty prickly, and you can get yourself a bit of an irritation, a bit of a rash. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to go pick some hops. Alright, here we go. Here we have the Willamette vine, and what I'm going to show you here is that these guys are really ready to pick. I mean, they're actually starting to get to the point where they're very open, they're very dry, and if I don't pick them now, they probably will be no good. So they got to come down tonight. The Mount Hood, much the same, looking very similar, very ready to be picked. They smell really nice. And the Cascade is probably not quite as slightly over mature, but even so, the stuff that's on the sunny side here, you can see, if you look really closely, that the vines have got slightly burnt, you know, dried out. And in fact, we have this whole vine down here that looks like it's showing some wilt, but it's set in pretty late, and I don't think it's affected, you know, the massive crop at the top. So this is the second year I've had these vines in here, and I have to say that, well, I don't know exactly how much I'm going to get off of them. I can tell just by looking at them that we have substantially more hops than we did last year. I got 1 pound off of the 4 vines last year, and I'm kind of expecting close to 2 this time. So we'll see. Alright, so the light is fading and the mosquitoes are out, and I've got probably the bottom 2/3 of the Cascade vine. Unfortunately, I think maybe half the hops are in the top third, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the trellis again, and I'm going to call it quits. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and weigh what I've picked so far. Just to give you an idea what that looks like, here it is. 5 fairly full bags of Cascade hops. So, here we have the fruits of tonight's labor. These are the Cascade hop cones that I picked, and they're laid out on my extremely high-tech Oast, which is a couple of screens that I bought from Restore for a couple bucks each, and a couple sawhorses, and a fan. And what we got here is wet weight. To give you an idea of what happens here, wet weight is a little under 2.5 pounds. But even with these guys just in the baggies for about an hour and a half, you can actually see a little bit of mist on the baggie, a little bit of fog. There's a lot of moisture coming off of these things. You got to get them out. You got to get them drying out as soon as possible. And this is the part that my wife complains that the basement smells like hops. I just don't understand that. I mean, who doesn't want their basement to smell like hops? So this 2.5 pounds of wet hop will probably drop down to about maybe half a pound when it's dry. Usually lose about somewhere around 80%. So tomorrow and Saturday I've got to get the rest of the hops cones off the vine, and I will fill these screens up. I may need more. So that's all for now.